Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. There's been chaos in Spanish Town, Portmore and other sections of St. Catherine as the reality of the parish lockdown took effect. Long lines of traffic and scores of people flocking supermarkets were just some of the observations made by our news team. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced a 7-day lockdown of St. Catherine yesterday after the total number of confirmed cases in the parish jumped to 36. Our reporter Anthony Lugg is in St. Catherine and now joins us live. Anthony?
Thank you, Andrea. Now I'm standing outside the Sovereign Village here in Portmore, St. Catherine, and I'm just going to remove my mask just for this broadcast. Now, it's extremely hot here in Portmore, St. Catherine, and one can only imagine what it's like for these persons who are standing here outside the Progressive Food supermarket here in Portmore, St. Catherine, who have been here for close to 2 hours. I'm going to ask my cameraman Glenford to just pan so you can get a look of just how many persons there are waiting outside the supermarket here in Portmore, St. Catherine. Some of these persons have been waiting to get inside the supermarket for close to 2 hours. And these residents here are extremely frustrated. Now, one would remember Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced yesterday that persons would be allowed to shop based on their surnames. However, thousands turned up outside to supermarkets, wholesales like this one, just to try and get a grab of some food. You know, persons are telling us they need some water inside their houses, and that is the reality of these persons out here. Now, another important point to make here is that a lot of these persons aren't practicing the social distancing policy. It's extremely difficult because, again, the number of persons outside trying to get inside the supermarkets are so many, and it's extremely difficult. I move now to point out that earlier today, and even now, there was a high pileup of traffic. This is because a number of persons tried to leave the parish this morning, but were stopped at some checkpoints, some along the toll road, some close to Mandela, and some of these persons were even turned back. Yes, they were turned back because they had no legitimate reason for being on the streets. Now, I move again and tell you that the residents here in Portmore, St. Catherine are extremely frustrated. The traffic here is extremely high, and the residents here are asking for something better to be done because they're saying that they will not be able to get the food they want. We will be monitoring the situation here in Portmore, St. Catherine, as well as Spanish Town and other communities here in the parish of St. Catherine, and we'll be providing an update. Until then, it's back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Meanwhile, Spanish Town's Mayor Norman Scott is not pleased with how the government imposed the lockdown of St. Catherine. Mr. Scott argues that the municipal corporation was not given enough notice.
The administration is short-sighted in their decision-making.
Chairman of the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, Norman Scott, reacting to the government's decision to lock down the parish. Last evening, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that movement would be restricted for 7 days. The announcement follows a spike in the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the parish. However, Mr. Scott is not pleased with the move, particularly the manner in which it was done.
This thing catch the people of St. Catherine by night. Is Nicodemus by night catching the people. The Minister of Health called me at 6:45 to tell me that a decision has been taken. I'm the chairman of the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation, and if something like this is going to happen, I would have expected the administration to give me the kind of kudos.
He argues that as chairman of the municipal corporation for the parish, he was not given ample time to prepare for the lockdown.
Calling me at 6:15 to make an announcement at 6. What do you expect me to do? I can't even find a word to express what I think is happening. All I can say, this seemed to be a catchy-shubby kind of decision.
Meanwhile, Mr. Scott adds that the new cases from a call center should not be a surprise to the government. He claims several mayors had raised concerns about the BPO sector.
Whilst the administration was so adamant about markets, mayors, including myself, spoke about the call centers, that we had a concern about call centers. So it shouldn't caught or catch the government by surprise. Again, I said, they're behaving like it's a catchy-chubby kind of administration.
St. Catherine has over 30 confirmed cases of COVID-19.
And the manufacturing sector is expecting a significant fallout from the St. Catherine lockdown. We go to the details in this report.
It's not business as usual for many companies, as a significant number of their employees live outside of the corporate area, especially in the neighbouring parish of St. Catherine. And with the lockdown of that parish, which took effect at 5 o'clock Wednesday morning, many businesses have been faced with closures and reduced numbers. Several entities have indicated that they have to close branches because a majority of the staff are from St. Catherine.
St. Catherine does supply about 60% of the workforce for the manufacturing industry. So it does have an effect, no doubt about it. And different companies are making different decisions as we move on.
Now, President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Metrosiaga, says it is too early to predict the possible fallout for the sector.
I would not hazard a guess. It's something that we have no idea how bad it's going to be or how long it's going to be. It's an everyday changing situation. And we, at our own company here, we have a meeting every morning and we assess and we recalibrate. So anybody that's giving any numbers, in my opinion, are just taking a stab in the dark.
His message for Jamaicans is to be responsible.
We have to continue social distancing. We have to continue to cover our faces. We have to do the right things and allow the government to get this thing under control. So we all have a responsibility, and imploring every Jamaican to do what they can do their part. Stay away from people.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And the lockdown of St. Catherine has led to the temporary closure of 8 branches of the National Commercial Bank NCB. Some branches in St. Catherine as well as Kingston and St. Andrew will be closed for the period of the quarantine based on their location. In addition, a number of NCB workers live in St. Catherine. Affected branches include Crossroads, Halfway Tree, Linstead, Old Harbour, Portmore, St. Jago, Washington Boulevard and Wynwood Road. Due to reduced staff, NCB's Customer Care Centre, check deposits at intelligent ABMs and servicing of point-of-sale terminals will be affected. Meanwhile, the JMMB Group has temporarily ceased operations in Portmore. Other locations remain open with the exception of its Junction branch. JMMB says the St. Catherine lockdown may also impact other service areas, including its call centre operations and deposits at ATMs. And it's time for a break now on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have much more right after these messages. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. The lockdown in St. Catherine could be extended beyond next week as Jamaica grapples with 105 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Prime Minister Andrew Holness sent the signal at a press conference last night.
Though we are going for 7 days, it is likely that it could go for 14.
The Prime Minister is reminding residents of St. Catherine and the rest of the country to take the coronavirus seriously. With hundreds of Jamaicans suffering from non-communicable diseases, Jamaica's health system will buckle under the pressure if the outbreak of COVID-19 intensifies.
Obesity, diabetes, heart conditions, respiratory conditions, hypertension, all of those are prevalent in our society. And so the uncontrolled spread of this disease, in addition to having to treat all of those conditions, would place our health system under severe stress. We don't want to have to make the decision, as other countries have had to make, who lives and who dies, who gets on a ventilator and who doesn't, who gets a bed and who doesn't.
And with over 30 workers at Alarica in Portmore testing positive for COVID-19, those responsible could find themselves in trouble with the law.
I have asked the Commissioner of Police to thoroughly investigate, along with the Health Department, the circumstances under which this outbreak took place and to pursue charges under the Disaster Risk Management Act. We cannot take this thing lightly, and consequences must fall where we can establish culpability.
Following a meeting with BPO stakeholders, the Prime Minister said most have been observing social distancing rules. 10,000 of the over 40,000 workers have been working from home.
We will be looking at all BPO operations. We have asked the Ministry of Health. I know you have done your inspections already, but I think we are going to do some more intensive inspections, and we're going to re-examine the protocols that are in place to see if we can't put in even tighter protocols.
The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, has sent home some workers at the Halfway Tree Transport Center after a female dispatcher tested positive for COVID-19. TVJ News understands the positive results was among the cases unveiled over the weekend. JUTC Chairman Paul Abrams did not confirm the case, but a source from the Health Ministry did. Mr. Abrams, however, said 20 members of staff were sent home as a precaution. The staff member who tested positive is a contact of COVID-19 patients, one of whom has died. She is now being held at the St. Joseph's Hospital in St. Andrew. Workers at the JUTC are worried they may be exposed to the virus. Now, there have been misconceptions among Caribbean nationals about the possible immunity to the coronavirus. Some of those fallacies and concerns were addressed during a recent online conference hosted by the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, CBU. And we'll try to return to that story before the end of the newscast. The police in St. Catherine yesterday recovered several stolen animals in the Fellowship Hall area. Residents say predial larceny continues to be a big problem.
24 goats and 2 sheep recovered by the police in St. Catherine about 5 a.m. on Tuesday. The police say they were on operation in the Bernard Lodge area when they saw 3 men acting in a suspicious manner. It's reported that upon seeing the police, the men ran. The police chased the men, but they escaped. They later found the animals which the police say were stolen.
Our investigation uprooted that they were stolen, as no one from the Clifton community could account properly for them. Hence, we got in touch with some farmers. I got in touch with DSP Ops, St. Catherine North, Mr. Bernard here, and our team started investigations, and the animals were identified and the farmers received same.
The farmers in the area say they have been suffering because of thieves for quite some time.
It's a plaguing thing. Even the fish farmer them have the same problem. Yeah, man, my man knows say you don't have no security around at the back of your place. You come with a net and throw it in there and take out what you want and gone. Man, when you go for dry you up and you realize a man dry it already for you. Yeah, so that thing we are going around the area for a long time. People asking.
The police say they hope to arrest more farm thieves in St. Catherine. In fact, only hours before this incident, the police received a new unit to help with its predial larceny fight.
And it couldn't come at a better time. And I can assure the citizens of St. Catherine North, especially the farming communities, that this vehicle, along with the 5 persons assigned to it, will be a tower of strength in the division.
He says farmers can also play a role in reducing predial larceny.
Use up the technology, mark their animals, mark their farms, mark their produce, register with RADA, so that we have a free flowing when we're out there on the street meeting them. And encourage them to farmers groups so that we can have good communication line with the police.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Now we return to an earlier story. We told you that there have been misconceptions among Caribbean nationals about possible immunity to the coronavirus, and those issues were discussed during a recent online conference hosted by the Caribbean Broadcasting Union.
Growing number of COVID-19 cases in the region. The Dominican Republic has the highest number, over 2,000 cases and more than 100 deaths. Confirmed cases in Trinidad and Tobago have passed 100, and Jamaica has over 70 cases. However, with the numbers in Jamaica and other Caribbean countries slowly increasing compared to the rest of the world, some have suggested that a previous vaccine to protect against tuberculosis, the BCG vaccine, may provide some protection. However, Pan American Health Organization PAHO representative warns that enough information is not available to confirm any such notion.
Those individuals who have been given BCG in the countries, it is actually a correlation. The countries where they have BCG vaccination have lower infection rate. So that's kind of relationship. And then, is it a protective factor? It's not a protective factor. So we encourage researchers to do more analysis in our region.
He says until further research is done, persons should protect themselves as much as possible using physical distancing and other measures. There have been other misconceptions, such as black people are less susceptible to the virus. However, Executive Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Joy St. John, warns that it may be quite the contrary, as black people, especially in the Caribbean region, have more cases of underlying illnesses such as diabetes and hypertension, and so may in fact be impacted more severely by the virus. As for the seemingly low numbers in most of the region,
what we have been seeing in the Caribbean so far, because I think in terms of the epidemic curve, we have not yet started to go into that steep part. We're coming out gently of the almost flat part, and we're going into the rise, but not in the exponential part as yet. So what we are seeing so far is more the distribution of the persons who have those risk factors for more severe disease.
And as it relates to testing in the region, she indicated that regional states have been following international guidelines by testing persons who have symptoms so as to prevent a false negative by testing too early. Among medical professionals, there was a concern about the initial seizure by the United States of medical equipment purchased by the Cayman Islands. The executive director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, Ronald Jackson, addressed the concern that this may happen again.
We have been doing bulk procurement on behalf of some of the member states. We have, on one hand, we have been working with a purchaser who was engaged by one of our global partners to try and ensure that we can get a better foothold in the market, both in terms of price and availability or access. That is in its early stages, and we're hoping we won't face those challenges ourselves. We're looking at different source areas for the items to ensure that we don't have the problems that we see emerging both on the Cayman case and the other case we have seen.
There are over 4,500 COVID-19 cases and more than 130 related deaths in the region so far.
And time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we'll look at the differences among the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19.
We're still in the flu season. The flu season extends until the end of May, so we're still in the flu season. Common cold is still going around. And the common cold is caused by several different viruses, including older coronaviruses and adenoviruses and rhinoviruses, other viruses that are going around still. So we do have to recognize that, these are there, and so not everybody who coughs or sneezes will have the coronavirus.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Wash hands regularly. Avoid touching the face. Keep at least 6 feet away from anyone sneezing and coughing. Cover the mouth when sneezing or coughing. And stay home if feeling unwell.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.